today, we embark on what I hope will be an eye-opening journey through one of the most mysterious and misunderstood books of the Bible, the Song of Solomon. Hidden among the Old Testament books of wisdom, the Song of Solomon has the distinction of being the only book of the Bible to have been censored by the church. You know, most Christians don't read it, don't understand it, and have never heard a sermon from it. And yet there couldn't be a more relevant message for our generation. The Song of Solomon holds invaluable insight. In this age where distorted views of love and sexuality prevail, we desperately need the wisdom embedded within this ancient text. There's no other book in the Bible like it, and there's no more important book of the Bible to read and understand if you have any interest whatsoever in what God thinks about love, sex, and intimacy. And today we live in a culture that's just inundated with distorted ideas about love and relationships. Society has twisted sex, which God originally proclaimed good in the Garden of Eden, into something that's urgent and illicit and self-gratifying. Love has morphed into lust, giving into getting, and commitment into no strings attached. Now, our society teaches that immorality equals freedom, and perversion is natural, and marriage is just old-fashioned. And now more than ever, I think it's crucial for us to listen attentively to God's guidance on love, sex, and relationships. And there's no more abundant source for that guidance than the Song of Solomon. Now, through the centuries, critics have targeted this book for its sensuous language. This book of the Bible contains the most explicit statements about sex in all of Scripture. In fact, early church leaders like Origen and Jerome felt like young people should not be allowed to read this book. In fact, they said until you turn 30 or you're married, you don't get to read Song of Solomon. But I think that's exactly the opposite of God's intention. In fact, you know, while married couples and divorcees and widows and widowers and everybody can glean some wisdom from the Song of Solomon, I think its original target audience was young single believers. And this poetic masterpiece features a love dialogue between a simple Jewish maiden and her beloved, exploring intimate feelings and longings. And throughout this dialogue, we find poetic expressions of sexual desire that are erotic but not explicit, graphic but not gross. Sex and marriage are placed on this divine pedestal. God created sex and intimacy, and they're holy and good when enjoyed the way that God intended. Now, while commonly known as the Song of Solomon, and I refer to it that way myself, the actual title of the book is Song of Songs. It's Solomon's Song of Songs. And that title, it's the same idea as like the King of Kings and the Holy of Holies. The idea is that this is the most exquisite, wonderful, beautiful song ever composed, at least by Solomon. And crafted in the style of a Hebrew wedding song, this unique biblical work stands out both in style and in substance. It's a love song that is expressed through poetic prose. The loosely woven narrative unfolds kind of like a play with minimal characters, allowing it to be read. Like this could be easily adapted into a stage performance where people read the parts aloud and performed in a theatrical way. The problem arises, though, in that we don't have any visual cues. And we don't always know who's speaking. Like the author did not label, okay, this part is Solomon, and this part is the Shulamite girl, and this part is so-and-so. That stuff's not actually labeled in the original text, and so sometimes you'll see differences in the translations as to who they think is speaking. The way that we know whether it's a male or female is whether masculine or feminine verbs are being used and that sort of thing. So we can tell whether it's a man or a woman speaking all the time, but you can't always tell exactly who is speaking. And so kind of imagine going to see a play in the theater and you just watch the whole thing with your eyes closed. And you don't recognize all the voices, so you're just trying to discern through the lyrics of the song exactly what's happening throughout the story. And obviously, that has led to considerable confusion and debate regarding the meaning of this song. Some say that it's an allegory about God's love for Israel or for the church. Others say it's a literal love story about a romantic couple who have fallen in love and it follows their journey. And honestly, I believe it's a bit of both. On one level, it is very clearly a poetic tale about love, sex, and relationships. And on another level, it points beyond itself to Christ's redeeming love for his people. Now, the prevailing interpretation today, presented by most pastors and teachers, envisions the Song of Solomon as the love story between Solomon and his one true love, this unnamed woman who he is madly in love with. And it follows their journey from when they first meet, their initial attractions, their courtship, their marriage, and eventually their sex life as well. However, there are several issues with this perspective. Notably, Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. Which one of these is supposed to be his one true love? Seriously, it just doesn't make sense from that perspective. And there's a whole host of other problems that I'll point out as we go. But the notion that is just common, and this is presented almost by every pastor and teacher today, that this is Solomon and the woman he loves, is just flat wrong. There's way more going on here than just Solomon and the girl of his dreams. And so because of that, I lean heavily toward the older, more traditional three-character interpretation of this song. And in this framework, there are two male suitors, King Solomon and a humble shepherd boy, who are competing, vying for the affections of one woman. The scenario unfolds just like a Hallmark movie, seriously. It's got the small town girl who is torn between the wealthy, influential, prominent big city king and the small town country boy from her hometown. And everybody knows how that story ends, right? And they learn the true meaning of Christmas along the way. He's probably wearing flannel, I can tell you that. But it carries all the elements of a classic romantic comedy. Unfortunately, it's really more of a tragedy. Now, it does have a happy ending, but there's some sad stuff that happens along the way. Now, the material in Song of Solomon is more intriguing, more challenging, and more exciting, I think, than any marriage conference I've ever attended. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better guide to love, romance, and sex that's more profound and applicable to real-life relationships. I mean, don't we all desire to love someone passionately and to be loved in return with equal intensity? And to see that love flourish throughout the years. The heartening news of Song of Solomon is that God desires for you to experience this kind of ecstasy and enjoy a lifelong, satisfying romance with your beloved, whoever that happens to be. So let's journey together throughout the whole month of February and discover the profound wisdom woven into the fabric of this inspired love song. If you have a Bible or an app on your phone, go ahead and open it. Please join me in Song of Songs, chapter 1. Now, the very first verse just says, this is Solomon's Song of Songs. But as we move into verse 2, these are the opening lines. It sets the stage by establishing the three primary characters as well as establishing the brewing conflict. Kiss me with the kisses of your mouth. She just launches right into it. Kiss me with the kisses of your mouth, because your love is better than wine. The smell of your perfume is pleasant, and your name is pleasant like expensive perfume. That's why the young women love you. Take me with you. Let's run together. The king takes me into his rooms. These are the words of the main female character, who we soon discover is a young Israelite maiden from the small, little-known town of Shulam. But she's never named throughout the story. Her words exude a passionate longing and desire for intimacy with her shepherd boyfriend, while the vivid imagery that she uses and the sensory details create this romantic and tender atmosphere right from the start of the book. And this is the feeling that just flows all through the book of the Song of Songs. She longs for his kisses and compares his love to wine, emphasizing its richness and exquisite quality. The pleasant smell, which is actually kind of unusual because shepherds normally stink. The pleasant smell of the shepherd's cologne and the alluring sound of his name, which is also never mentioned. So you've got two characters who remain nameless throughout the whole story. Not only evoke this sense of physical closeness, but also highlight the captivating allure of her beloved. She's clearly conveying that this is a desirable, high-value man, in her opinion. But hold on. The sweet expressions suddenly take a back seat as she pleads, "Take me with you. Let's run together." Can you feel the urgency in her words? Can you sense her longing to escape and reunite with the man that she loves? And then here comes the conflict. The king has taken her into his chambers. Can you feel that tension? Despite her love for the shepherd, King Solomon has chosen this Shulamite girl to become one of his many wives or concubines, abruptly whisking her away from her humble home in the countryside to his luxurious palace in Jerusalem. So you can see the conflict brewing. It's setting the stage for a narrative dynamic where the shepherd, her true love, must rescue her from the advances of the king. She longs to flee the palace and to run away with her one true love. And thus the theme of the song is established. And as we delve deeper into chapter 1, the Shulamite girl introduces herself. That's the very next thing that happens. So verses 5 and 6, she says, "I am dark but beautiful, O women of Jerusalem. Dark as the tents of Kedar, dark as the curtains of Solomon's tents. Don't stare at me because I'm dark. The sun has darkened my skin. My brothers were angry with me. They forced me to care for their vineyards, so I couldn't care for myself, my own vineyard." In these verses, we get a glimpse into the world of this Shulamite girl. She recognizes that she's a bit too tanned for the prevailing standards of beauty. Picture this. She's outside, working in the fields, serving her family with a dedication that goes beyond herself. This is no girl who just sits around waiting for things to happen. She's the kind who rolls up her sleeves, breaks a nail or two, and gets the job done. And while the fairer-skinned women of Jerusalem might have cast a judgmental glance in her direction, our Shulamite girl stands tall. "I am dark but beautiful," she boldly and confidently says. And the Hebrew word here suggests a beauty that goes beyond the surface. It's a beauty that radiates from within, a rare gem in Solomon's world of palace glamour. Think about it. She's not your typical damsel in distress, right? She's a rustic country girl, unafraid of hard work, and beautiful on both the inside and the out. She's capable and strong. Solomon, with a harem full of women and a luxurious palace life, saw something special in her, a charm that transcended the superficial allure of his palace life. But next, flashing back to kind of an earlier stage in their relationship, she calls out once more to her beloved shepherd. Verse 7, she says, "Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flocks and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? And here we discover the Shulamite's beloved is a shepherd, like I said. And this is a crucial clue, I think, pointing out that Solomon is not the man that she loves. Solomon, the king, was born and bred in the palace with not a single day spent in the fields as a shepherd. Unlike his father, King David, who knew the ins and outs of shepherding, Solomon's pampered palace life set him apart from that kind of rugged outdoor work. But hold on, there's more. This verse uncovers another layer. The shepherd boy and the Shulamite girl are not just casually dating, they're engaged, or betrothed, as they would say in their culture. How do we know that? Well, she describes herself as a veiled woman. And a lot of translations say, why should I be like a veiled woman? That's not the original language. The most literal translation is, why should I, as one veiled, be by the ranks of your friends? That's how it's translated literally. And additionally, both Solomon and the shepherd later describe her as wearing a veil. So this veil is something that she's wearing. And why is that important? Well, it gives us a peek into ancient Israelite culture, where the veil wasn't just a fashion accessory, but a symbol loaded with meaning. In today's culture, a bride often wears a veil on her wedding day, right? This is still something that we do. And the groom will remove the veil, usually at the end of the ceremony, right before the whole, like, you may kiss the bride now, or sometimes right when she comes up to the front of the church, or whatever it is. But that tradition is rooted in Israelite culture, where the bride or the betrothed woman wears a veil not just on her wedding day, but all throughout her engagement, the entire betrothal period, which usually lasted for about a year. And the veil that she wore shouted, "I'm taken." You know, in their culture, that's what the veil meant. During that betrothal period, the woman proudly sports this veil as a public declaration of her commitment to her future husband. It wasn't just an accessory, it was a bold statement. Don't try putting any moves on me. I've got a man already. Keep your distance. And much like today, the unveiling usually happened either during the ceremony or sometimes that night, on the wedding night. And it represented that transition from betrothal to marriage. And so when she says, "Why should I, as a veiled woman, go searching for you among your friends?" she's proclaiming loud and clear, "I'm taken, I'm engaged, happily committed. I don't need to be wandering around fraternizing with all those other shepherd boys." And her words reverberate this sense of commitment and fidelity and excitement of a love that's already set in motion. And as this love ballad continues, she hears her shepherd's voice responding. Verses 8 through 10. "If you don't know, O most beautiful woman, follow the trail of my flock and graze your young goats by the shepherd's tents. You are as exciting, my darling, as a mare among Pharaoh's stallions. How lovely are your cheeks. Your earrings set them afire. How lovely is your neck, enhanced by a string of jewels." The shepherd invites his love to come and find him, right? Just follow the path that I've left. And then he drops a comparison that is as intriguing as it is endearing. He likens her to a horse. Not my go-to when I'm trying to compliment my wife, but he doesn't compare it to just any horse. This is a mare among Pharaoh's chariots, right? A female horse set loose in front of Pharaoh's army. And if you know anything about equine behavior, you know that setting loose a female horse on a battlefield full of male horses is just asking for pandemonium, right? They're going to be so distracted by this female horse that they forget all about the battle at hand, and they won't follow orders. They're just going to be chasing after the girl. So what's the shepherd getting at with this comparison? Well, he knows that her mere presence in the fields is going to cause all the other shepherds' heads to turn. And he's saying that she's just that captivating. Yes, my love, you are so captivating that it's worth causing a little chaos in the fields just to get a glimpse of your lovely face. And he doesn't just stop there. He showers her with adoration, complimenting her cheeks and her neck, taking notice of her earrings and her necklace. Now that is how you compliment a woman, with genuine admiration for the details that make her uniquely beautiful. But here comes the harsh reality. The Shulamite can't simply follow the trail of sheep to find her beloved shepherd because she's consigned to the palace, conscripted into Solomon's harem. She describes the dilemma in this way, in a way that's both poetic and beautiful. She says in verse 12 and 13, "The smell of my perfume spreads out to the king on his couch. My lover is like a bag of myrrh that lies all night between my breasts." Now let's unpack this a little. The king's couch he's not talking about a sofa. He's not like sitting on the couch at home. The king's couch was more like a bed that was carried around by slaves while the king was traveling so that he could just recline and it usually had the canopy and stuff like that over. This is a fancy thing that they would hoist up and carry him around from place to place so that he could relax while he was being carted around. So we find out in chapter 3 that Solomon was riding his couch when he first noticed this Shulamite girl. And it's likely that event that she's recalling, that he's like, "Ooh, what is that lovely smell?" And he looks over and, "Ooh, who is that beautiful woman?" Right? This is their initial encounter. But then that smell, that perfume that she's speaking of, isn't just any ordinary perfume. It's from a small sachet of myrrh, commonly worn like a necklace. It would be a leather band, and the little tiny bag of myrrh would hang right there against her chest. And you just picture her clutching that bag of myrrh close to her heart, envisioning her shepherd being held close to her. It's not just about the scent, it's the symbol of their connection, a precious reminder, perhaps it was a gift from him, of their true love amid the complexities of the situation that they find themselves in. And then her heart flutters once again as she hears the adoring voice of her lover. Verse 15, "My darling, you are beautiful. Oh, you are beautiful, and your eyes are like doves." And then she responds to him, closing out the first chapter, saying, "You are handsome, my lover, and so pleasant. Our bed is the grass. Cedar trees form our roof. Our ceiling is made of juniper wood." These two are deeply in love, to say the least. And in this closing statement, we find another one of those clues that Solomon is not the Shulamite's beloved. If Solomon wanted to woo or seduce a woman, it wouldn't be in a bed of grass surrounded by trees, but in the luxury of the palace, surrounded by wealth and riches. But the luxury of the palace isn't enough to sway her mind. She knows that the palace is not her place. A shepherd's tent with a grass floor surrounded by cedars would do well enough because she would be with the man that she loves, and that is all that matters. Talk about setting the stage for a love story that goes beyond the ordinary, a love story that transcends the boundaries and captivates the heart. So as we close this initial chapter of Song of Solomon, you might be wondering, okay, so what's the point, right? Like, what's the takeaway from this tale of star-crossed lovers? Well, obviously, we'll get more of that as we journey through the story. As it unfolds before us, we see more and more depth to it. But right here from these opening verses, we step into the shoes of this young maiden, navigating the complexities of romantic relationships and the challenges that come with them. Her unwavering faithfulness, inner beauty, and diligent work ethic offer a poignant example, especially for young singles today. The Shulamite girl embodies a timeless lesson in this ancient love story, that beauty is more than skin deep, and enduring attraction stems from the character within. And I think there's a message there for anyone that is on the lookout for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or whatever, that in the meantime, you need to make sure that you're developing the characteristics that will be attractive to the opposite sex, that you are becoming the person that God wants you to be so that you can be Mr. Right or Mrs. Right to whoever God has planned for you. That's the kind of woman that the Shulamite was. And likewise, her reluctance to fraternize with the other shepherds, her longing for her fiance despite being conscripted into Solomon's harem, serves as a potent reminder of the need for caution in our interactions with other people. Right? For those of us who are married, protecting the sanctity of our hearts is crucial. When we're spending extra time around, friends or coworkers of the opposite sex, it opens the possibility for emotional entanglements that can jeopardize marital trust. Simple actions like touching or calling outside of work, sending emails or texts, or making inappropriate jokes can snowball into emotional attachments, potentially paving the way for affairs. So let's take a page from this Shulamite girl's playbook as we navigate our own relationships and be the kind of person that is trustworthy no matter what situation we're in. And lastly, right from the start, the Song of Solomon illuminates the intricacies and challenges of love. Acknowledging that love can be complex and even painful, it highlights the messy reality of relationships. Things don't always unfold in that storybook ending where you meet someone, you fall in love, and live happily ever after. There are challenges along the way. And as we journey deeper into the Song of Solomon, we'll unravel a timeless tale that resonates across generations. And as we do, I want to encourage you to view love, sex, and intimacy from God's perspective. It's an invitation to embrace a divine understanding of romance and relationships. Next week, we'll delve deeper into this beautiful ballad as the story continues to unfold. But in the meantime, if you're struggling to navigate the world of romance and relationships right now, please reach out to me, and together we'll seek God's guidance and instruction so that you can experience a love that lasts a lifetime. Let's stand and sing together, church.